Oh, I thought I hit. Hi, this is John Ryan, and with me is Stephen Nelson, and this is the British are coming podcast of the USA Handball Talk podcast episode, I should say. Stephen, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Just great to be here with you. It's a couple of years since I've seen you. You came along to our online conference during the COVID time, so that was very successful actually. So it's great to be back having a chat about handball in the English speaking world again.
It is. It's great. And you have moved on, I think, from Scottish handball. I don't know if you still have, if you're dual rolled now, but you are now also you are the chair of British Handball.
Yeah, that's right. I was actually working for Scottish Handball up until that was about, I think, October 2022. And then some things changed in my life and I'd moved away from working for them. I've now, last year, I was the interim chair of British Handball, and just recently I've taken on the role full time. When we say full time, still voluntary, I still have my day job as well, obviously. But yeah, so chair of British Handball. Still very involved in Scottish handball as well. Still got a lot of connections. Still got my own club that I'm associated with as well.
Right. Well, I'm going to show a reel that England Handball did on the match in Derby just to kind of give folks an idea. Um, I couldn't figure out how to blow it up, but um, people will still be able to see it, I think.
Yeah,
And there is there is the match in Derby. Let's see. Can I turn the volume on?
yeah. I don't think your volume's coming on. Yeah, definitely a great event, and it came across very well in the video.
Let me turn it down a bit. All right, that gives folks a taste of it. I'll stop the screen share. Um, and maybe you saw the podcast that JD and I did on the match. Did you see some of
Yeah,
that?
yeah. I did see some of that. Yeah, you were kind of fascinated as how we got to that position and where did this all come from. And you said I could get a raise as well, so that was good.
Well, we'll get to that. I'm sure it was more than a one man operation, and England
Yeah,
handball was
definitely. Yeah,
also
yeah,
very involved.
yeah. But I'll take the raise though.
Yeah, it takes a village, so to speak.
Yeah,
Um, but you know, we talked a couple of years ago about some of the similarities U.S. handball and Scotland, England, the English speaking world, and I have been to a lot of matches, and I've seen a lot of matches online in
yeah,
the English speaking world where there are a lot of empty seats, and you know it's the players on the court are competing, but the atmosphere surrounding the match has left much to be desired.
yeah.
And I turned that on just kind of as a curiosity. And I was just like, well, wait a second. Well, it is an England. They got a huge Union Jack flying in the stands, uh, full stands, just a real atmosphere. And um, I've got a whole series of questions because I'm really curious as to how it was done. And a lot of it was the presentation, but I'll start first with the crowd that you guys
Yeah.
got. Um, Around how many spectators were there?
I think it was about 1,200 we had in the end. It was a sellout in the end, so we're really pleased with that as well.
Yeah, that's a good crowd, and we'll talk a little bit about the optics of making 1,200 people look great.
Yeah, it did, and it did look great. Yeah,
Where did the spectators come from?
yeah. I mean, it's kind of a mix. I'd say there's quite a number of handball academies now in England. So basically, what we did, well, England handball, as you said, I mean, I obviously only joking earlier. England handball, all of their staff, all of their volunteers were hugely involved in creating the whole event. So the children from the handball academies, along with their parents, came along to the event. There's also a Facebook group, the British Handball Past and Present, which is some of the guys played in the 70s even. So a lot of those people were along as well. Um, Also the handball community in general, that particular area, even though Derby's not a particular handball area, it's quite close to Nottingham and Loughborough in the sort of Midlands area of England where there's a lot of handball going on. And I saw you were talking about Ricardo, the coach, in the other podcast, and he's from Nottingham, so he's got a team there. Um, so and then I would say probably about a third of the audience that were there were kind of local people, curious people. So certainly got a good few hundred interest, and certainly after the match, I did an interview with the BBC local radio station. So a lot of good interest in it, but that was a sort of mix of the audience. So a lot of kind of handball people, but I think it's built upon a lot of what's been going on. I mean, there is an undercurrent of what's been happening since the London Olympics. We did have the challenge of losing the funding for the national teams, but there's been a huge amount of schoolwork and university work going on in both Scotland and England that underpin the British teams to actually have a lot more people interested.
Yeah, that was a wondering. So it was more. It was a lot of handball people, but also some folks that, lack of a better term, came in off the street, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, more or less. Yeah, I mean, I think that we did certainly. England did a very good job marketing the game. And that it got a lot of attention in the local area, and that was the second game. So we had a game in Scotland in November for the World Championship qualifier. Wasn't such a great venue, and obviously cost is always a big challenge. But so we sort of used the Scottish Association to support with that match, and the English Handball Association to support with this particular match as well.
Well, tell me a little bit about that venue. What is it normally used for?
So as a velodrome, so we were using the area in the middle of the velodrome. Um, the history behind it a bit as well is because it's got a fairly large area in the middle. England handball have been using it for a number of events, so they'd already started to build a relationship there with the venue. So that kind of a lot of what happened came from sort of building blocks of things that have been going on. England have been holding quite a significant sort of well organised English Cup final in the past few years, with quite a number attending. Scotland's been holding the British Super Cup, which is the top two men's and women's teams in Scotland and England that play off for the both the British sort of championship and the qualification places for Europe. So there's been these building blocks of events that are not quite the same scale as you saw there, but it's something we've been working on. That when we've got something that we can profile and present, that we try and do that and do it in a good way.
Have they played handball matches there before?
Yeah, so they can get two courts across the way actually. So it's quite a good venue that they can get two courts going on at the same time. So they've been doing youth things there as well, and I think as well we also made a whole weekend of it. We brought the men's 18 and the men's 20 teams down, so they trained before and after the match, and they also trained the next day. So we got the floor down. So the 18 and 20 squads were there, and it gave them a chance to see the top guys and look at the sort of people, the role models that they could aspire to.
And it's always fun to play on even if it's just a practice on a nice court with a good feel for what a bigger event will be like.
Yeah, always good for them. And yeah, good experience because they've got to go off this summer to Europe and they'll be playing in the men's 18 and men's 20 championship. So probably good experience to play in the court as it was as well.
Yeah, and we talk a little bit about the of the optics and the sizing,
Yeah,
and I would give an A+
yeah.
for that presentation. And honestly, I've seen handball countries not do as good a job of putting the court there, getting the crowd right up on the court and full stands. I mean, it even fooled me. I was thinking that there was stands on all four sides, but I see from that presentation, it um, the structure of the arena was such that it was just on three sides.
Yeah, just in the three sides. I mean, we deliberately did that, obviously, to make it, as you say, the optics to be good, so you could see, make it look nice and full, and it's also looking good with all the stands filled as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of thinking that goes to that, and I've talked about different events that we've had where the hall has been too big.
Yeah,
Um, the most notable one was the Coupe de la Ligue in Miami in 2009. They played that in the Miami Heat basketball arena,
yeah. So way too
and
big.
they curtained off the top side of it. The top, you couldn't even see those teeth, but
Yeah,
it was still
okay.
just ridiculously too big for the number of people. And they probably had, when they bus loaded a bunch of kids and they probably had maybe 1,000 people there for
Yeah,
for some of the matches, but it was like a tomb. You
yeah.
could you could hear the coach talking from the other side of the court.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think the important thing is to get the right size of venue and make sure you can fill it, as you say. And I think we actually believe that we could probably double the crowd if we had the right situation in the venue there. I mean, because that was the first game in England of the senior teams since 2012. So I mean, that's been, it's been a long time since we had a match. So as you said, didn't just happen by accident. We've been, I talked about English Cup finals. They've been using these things to try and, this is a good time to build an event out of something. And the same company were filming obviously filmed that as well. So they've got experience, because you don't always get TV companies or video companies who've got experience of filming handball. So it's been years in the making, really, both the crowd and the whole event. There's been a lot of things going on that perhaps people don't have visibility of, because we don't get the profile of what's happening in the grassroots level.
yeah. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about the organization and the logistics, and that's one thing I hadn't even really thought of. When I watched the EHTV broadcast live, they had an English commentating team,
Yeah,
and like I said, you had multiple camera angles.
yeah.
So you've got a company that you hired to put together the production.
Yeah. So they work closely with England Handball. We use a different company actually in Scotland. The company we work with in Scotland actually does professional football for the BBC. So they were quite impressive as well. But yeah, they have a company they work with down there, and they're quite used to doing that. Obviously, there's regulations from the EHF around number of cameras as well. So there is a requirement for all those angles. So we've certainly, they've got a partner. I mean, they're very much about partnerships who they're working with. So yeah, they're getting used to working with them, and they did a really good job. I mean, it's interesting because there was a lot of things, there were challenges behind the scenes, but the whole thing came together in the end of it.
Yeah, that's something I hadn't even thought of. I did not know that they had a minimum number of cameras
Yeah, yeah,
EHF requirement. I see all these things about, like, the floor has to be, you
yeah,
know no lines, which is a good thing, and but that's a good requirement, and that's one of the things that we've struggled in the U.S. is venues that just don't allow for a good camera angle, um,
yeah,
and that um, I think a lot of times when we're putting on an event, it's kind of the last thing that gets done. There's so many things that you need to get done just to have the game actually get played. Um, that the promotion that surrounds such an event and the presentation of it, sometimes it falls behind the wayside.
yeah. And I think, yeah, I mean, the EHF do have. I mean, I organised the match back in 2013, which was the last match between GB and Italy, qualifier up in Scotland, and the regulation requirements were so much less. We never had to stream it, and there was a lot of different things. We didn't need the LED boards then, so they have made the standards higher, which makes that a challenge for us, because it makes it very costly. I mean, in the regulations are a good bedtime read. It's about 50 pages, I think, of regulations for a qualifier.
Now,
So
that's a that just following all of those for a non-traditional handball country. That's quite a bit of work in itself.
yeah, it's quite tough. I mean, I'd obviously I've been involved a long time, and it's still acknowledged from the past when we'd held the matches. I'm just back from Germany, just back from the Euro finals in Cologne. And I know a lot of we learn a lot of things, to understand. We speak to a lot of the countries to understand how to create things. But certainly, the lessons were learned on those on the match up in Scotland. That knowledge was passed on to the guys in England, but they already had, a really good team. And really, I mean, it's all credit to England handball for everything that went on there. I mean, I'm just the sort of figurehead of it all, really. I did do a couple of things on the day, but really the whole thing was organised by England handball, by their staff and volunteers. And I mean, it was excellent. The number of people they had working on it as well made it run nice and smoothly, I think.
Yeah. Um, and you talked a little bit about the promotion and gearing people up for it. And I'll have to be honest, I saw a few things online, and I just kind of, I see those sort of things all the time, and I just kind of go like, okay, yeah, England's going to have a match, and it's going to be a typical match with half-filled stands, and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
uh, um, I don't want to be critical of past efforts because, like I said, there's a lot of things that go involved with that. But um, how long of a promotion and planning stage did it take to, like to say, okay, we're going to host this thing? Did you guys have like a big project plan to make sure everything got checked off?
Probably not as big as it should have been, the project plan. I mean, it was all very hectic. But yeah, there's a lot of discussion between myself, what we'd learned up in Scotland, and there was a couple of key people in England and one person in particular who was leading that whole thing. There's a lot of discussions with them around all the planning, and obviously the regulations are a good reference. So, and then it's just a matter of saying these are the gotchas. You've got to make sure that this is in place and that's in place. There's specific things around the matches you've got to just be ready for, as well in terms of preparation.
Who was in charge of the effort?
Well, it was a guy, John Pierce, who's a former Olympian, played 2012. So he's the under 18. He's the men's 18 coach, and he works for England handball around events. So he was the key person there, but with help from Mike Bain, who's the chief executive. So it was really the two of them that I'd be working most closely with. But they've got a strong organisation under all of that as well. That they can call upon. Which again, going back to the point about the English Cup, where finals have ran, they've got the experience of running kind of events and involving all their staff as well.
Well, yeah, you need somebody organizing and in charge, and then you need, I would think with England, British handball, Scottish handball, you need an army of volunteers to make something like that happen.
Yeah, yeah. Interestingly, England have quite a lot of staff now. I don't know the exact number, but I mean, in Scotland, there's about 7 staff involved in Scottish handball now, and there's a lot more than that involved in England. So, and then they obviously can call upon volunteers to help out as well. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how many. I'm trying to think how many people I saw on the day. From about 20 people, certainly from England handball. I've seen I doing things and involved in various things around the venue.
Yeah. Um, well, I don't suppose you'll give me details on the budget and the organization of something like that, but anything you can share in terms of top level numbers of what it took to put that together. Like for instance, I mean, was there an admission fee for the event?
Yeah, we did have quite a low one. It was sort of like £10 for adults and free for children. But we're quite fortunate at the moment. We do have some government funding specifically for the national teams. So that's what allowed us to put it on. I mean, we couldn't afford to do that, and we're in discussion with the government at the moment about the funding for LA cycle from 25 to 29. So it was really money we had from them. I mean, what does it cost to put a game like that on? I mean, about £40,000 to put a match like that on, I would say.
40,000 pounds. I mean,
Yeah.
that, and then you got to figure in the man hours that people
Yeah,
put into
yeah,
it, and both paid staff and both volunteers, if you will, because
yeah.
volunteers doing that could be volunteers doing something else.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of goodwill that goes in there as well. I think as well we've been in discussion because obviously in Europe you have this sort of four group competition with three home games, three away games over the course of a season. But in discussions with a lot of the countries, I would say that it's going to cost you about 150 to 180,000 pounds to do those six matches and meet the regulation requirements around TV and all the travel and setting up the matches as well.
Well, you jumped ahead, if like, and that was one of my questions that I was going to get to. Um, like if you had made the group stage, is that what you were talking about there?
Yeah, well, yeah. Obviously, if we'd beaten Kosovo there, we would have. That was the sort of level of cost to put on the matches in the group phase as well. So yeah, it's a big undertaking. And it's I think it's been the thing. Interestingly, when I was interviewed, that it's the thing that stops us doing what we'd like to do is just that finance, the money. We haven't got any particular major sponsors. There's a little bit of sponsorship. We're Kemper on board, but that's more equipment. Um, so yeah, we've not really got a lot of. There's very little income coming in at the moment.
When you said six matches, um, how does that work real quickly? I mean, with Kosovo, it was a home and away, and then if you advance to the next stage, it would have been another home and away, and then wouldn't it have
No,
been
no.
three?
The next phase after Kosovo would have been the phase two group stage for the Euro 2026. So that would have entailed. So they have three phases during the season. If I remember right, it's about October, something like October, February, April. I can't remember off the top of my head. And then in each of those phases, there's a home and away, one home match, one away match over the course of the season. That would have been the
So,
next stage.
yeah, so you would have costs to travel for the away matches. That
Yeah,
would be
yeah. So it's
different than
cost.
the
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
presentation
And
match.
depending who you draw, because obviously when you play the away match, when you arrive at the airport, then the other federation is responsible for looking after you at that stage. You've always got that responsibility from when the team arrives in your country.
Yeah, but for a team like like Germany or Hungary or something, it would be interesting to see the ledger that they have. I mean, obviously they can get a bigger crowd, and um, they can probably recoup more of their costs
Yeah,
to stage matches, and then the TV rights for those matches would also have some value as well. I would think.
yeah. I mean, they'll have they'll have all their sponsors. I mean, I was over in Dusseldorf for the 53,000 match. People, I mean, they've got a lot. I mean, the German Federation has got a lot of sponsors. And obviously they're looking after the national teams because the Bundesliga is looking after itself as an organization. So they've got all of that, and obviously they've got a huge audience in Germany. Obviously, it depends on who they're playing against, but they will turn out. I mean, they're a fantastic crowd in Germany. The fans just support it. I mean, it's a great kind of environment handball because the fans are so supportive of other teams as well.
Yeah, it's such a night and day, but it's the same sort of job. You know, they're
Yeah,
trying to maximize the number of people coming. They're trying to, they did things like the Dusseldorf match to, uh, get more publicity. It's the same thing, just on a
yeah,
grander scale, with
yeah.
without having to convince people to
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 go to
go.
it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
Um,
I think as well. I mean, it was interesting the impact over here of the Dusseldorf game because I met a lot of people who don't know anything about handball and said, "Oh, saw the match. There was a 15-second clip on Instagram showing them building the court, and yeah, and very interesting that how much it was picked up by people out. So the actual idea of having that match to break the world record and reach people outside of handball, especially English speaking countries that are important to us, is that it did have a good impact on that. I think.
Yeah, that's always something. They talk about like Instagram views and TikTok
Yeah,
views and likes and shares, and I think at some point all that can be converted into to dollars and pounds. and
Yeah, someone. I
euros.
mean, yeah. I think I was just speaking to my son there who plays handball, and I think he said that Prandy's shot against Sweden has had 13 million views on Instagram. So yeah, it certainly has went viral. There's been a few handball things that have went absolutely viral on Instagram because they've been shared, and then they start getting picked up by people outside the handball, which is a really good impact, I think, of what's this crazy sport these people are doing, sort of thing.
Um, so along those lines, the question I have um, is it costs money to put on an event like that, but you get benefits.
Yeah.
All the kids that went there and saw that probably had a little bit more excitement about this somewhat obscure sport that they're playing and where it might take them. So there's a benefit there. Um, I don't know if it, crossed over into the British zeitgeist. Um, you tell me, what was the cost benefit analysis for the event? Was it worth it?
Um, I think it's necessarily a cost benefit analysis. It's necessary. If we want to go anywhere, we have to hold home matches. And we've resisted that for a number of years because we didn't have the money to do that. We just couldn't do it. We were bankrupted the federation. We've had an opportunity since 20, I think it's about 2021 with some government funding, which was from the UK government, because both Scotland and England get funded separately from sports organisations within called Sport England and Sport Scotland. But this is the first money we got, and that allowed us to do this. And I think that we're ambitious. We want to be a phase two team. We want to be in the Euro Championships, and this is what it takes. So I think that it's a little bit chicken and egg. We need to do these events to attract the sponsors. We just won't get sponsors if we don't do this. Now, I'm not saying we will get sponsors now, but at least we have a product that's like your reaction to it. Oh yeah, I've seen a lot of matches, and then people will have a good react. And the feedback from the European Handball Federation has been really good as well. They were very
I should
impressed by it.
I should sure hope so.
Yeah,
If they understand what you guys accomplished, they should be like, really excited. And might I add, if you're like looking to try and do that again and you need a little help, that's that's a good use of funds, in my opinion. I've advocated for that sort of, instead of always focusing on, uh, competition, set some aside to help with the presentation.
yeah. I mean, I think we were fortunate that was really the money that we got in these past sort of 3 4 years was about just supporting the teams, which includes like having matches as well. So it allowed us a little bit of leeway, and really we've been doing some clever budgeting as well. I mean, the players get some payment towards some of their travel when they go abroad, but not all of it. So they're still contributing. So it's a bit of a kind of clever way of just using the money most effectively, really, that we receive.
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting, like if you play matches and nobody sees it,
Yeah.
it's the tree falls in the forest. For the people that played in those matches, it's great, but you need something like that to grow the sport.
Yeah, and I think you the point earlier about I've watched a few matches in England or Britain or Scotland, and yeah, it's not really well attended. I think that I'm very conscious that if you're going to put something that the whole world can see, you better make it good. So we're not going to film every single handball match we've got because some of it there's not many people watching, but they're good matches. But I think that people forget. I mean, I see a lot of the, let's say, less developed handball countries around the world putting things on YouTube or wherever they put them. But you're not thinking that a lot of people can see this, and will they be impressed by what they see? So you want to create the right sort of reputation for yourself and the right sort of image about where your handball is going. I think it's really key, and we've been conscious of that in the past few years, and those events we've been doing. Trying to create something that looks impressive on, when people see it streamed.
Yeah, it's yeah. I guess from that logical point of view, there might have been some things that we've broadcast in the U.S. that maybe we should just keep under the cover of darkness.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I know I have watched some of the US stuff and different things that are going on, the Canada matches, all different things at different times. So I'm always really interested to see how things are going. But yeah, I think sometimes you got to just say, that's great that 100 people can watch that or something. I don't know how many people. Sometimes it's not a huge audience, but maybe it's not the best if it just sits there and people find that every so often. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
got to be, it's got to have good production values, really.
yeah. So what would have happened if you guys had, beaten Kosovo, and then I think there's another home and home to get to the final group stage?
No, no, it would have been the final group stage next. It would have been so we'd have been straight into phase two. So there's
I
just
think Kosovo had to play somebody again
no, no, they
before.
go no, no, they're into that. Well, maybe I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure they go straight into the phase two round because just I think it's just a single promotion round. I'm not. I may be wrong.
Yeah, I think there might be, but what if you had gone to the group stage where you were thrown in with, let's say
Germany,
Germany,
Denmark, France.
Germany, Czech Republic, and I don't know, somebody like Belgium. Would you
I
guys
think
have had to do that again 3 more times?
yeah, we'd have to do it three more times. I think the main thing is like if you want to get to where we want to get to, you've just got to do it. I mean, it could be a real tough experience early on. I mean, the Faroes in a very very small place. The Faroes obviously, but they had a fantastic competition across in Germany in the Euros, and that's taken years in the making. But they've had difficult matches in the past, but now they really impressed across there. But so we want to follow the or emulate Faroes, Georgia had a good Euro as well, considering the first qualification I think at that level. So yeah, I think you've got to just be in it to win it. I think you've got to start somewhere. It's never going to be easy. You've seen the USA games against the top nations in the Olympics and different things. It's always tough.
So barring that, is takes a lot of energy. Is this a one-off thing, or are you guys going to try and do something like this every year until you
Yeah.
reach that progression level?
Well, it depends on the cycles of obviously of the competitions, and obviously they're kind of generally in 2 year cycles. The Euros in a 2 year cycle, in a 2 year cycle for the World Championship qualifiers. So our intention is to build a good relationship with Derby. We like it. The arena's good. We hope to build a relationship. We're going to start a new handball team there. Build a relationship with the local council. The women have a qualifier in November in the World Championship, so we're hoping to have the home game there. So our intention is going forward now that home games will be at. That'll be the venue for home games, Derby. So yeah, we're going to build the audience and just build the whole thing up. And I think it's probably well before the men are back because they play in the phase one next January, but probably it's a group phase and probably won't be played by us. But we're also looking at next year we're going to have the women's 19 Euro, European Championship. So we're hoping to host maybe 6 teams there as well. So we've got ambitions around the events. I think it brings, as you say, not so much the cost benefit analysis, but the intangible benefits of just having home matches and how that influences younger players and also people who've never seen handball before. I mean, that just encourages a new audience as well.
Well, I'd like for the USA to stage something like that. We're not quite there yet, but maybe you guys can have a friendly tournament. Invite our Americans over there for a training camp during some international week, and we have an unofficial English speaking championship with Great Britain, the U.S. Oh, I guess maybe invite India.
Yeah, did you see? I mean, it's starting to go well in India. I did see that someone put a lot of money into a sort of Indian Premier League matches because
That's
it was
that's
looking good.
another good example of presentation
Yeah,
because they're making that look like more than what it is.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but good on them, and good
yeah.
on whoever decided to you
Put
know
some money in.
put
Yeah,
forth put forth that funding. Well,
yeah.
Stephen, we're almost out of time. Is there any other words of wisdom from the big Derby event that you'd like to share?
Um, I really think it's just about teamwork and really what made it successful was because we really pushed the handball family. I mean, handball isn't a huge sport, as you know, in USA or in Britain. But what you can do with the people who are really passionate and enthusiastic about it, you can really build something because people want it who have been part of it for a long time, and it really it really can make a difference. And thanks both to the Scottish Handball Association and English Handball Association for England Handball Association for all the work that they did for both the matches in November and the one in January.
Yeah. Well, you guys have certainly set the standard for a non-traditional handball nation. Anybody saying it can't be done or it's too hard, I'm just going to show them that video and saying like, why can't we do that?
Yeah,
And I think that's the same discussion that they should have in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, uh, Ireland, and
yeah.
other countries because you guys, hats off to you. You guys really demonstrated that it is possible.
Yeah, no, thanks very much. No, we were really delighted in how it came across, and like hopefully we'll go on to bigger and better things. That's the idea. So we just keep working on it.
Well, congratulations, and I look forward to more great things. But for Stephen Neilson, this is John Ryan, and thanks for listening.